Okay, this is the KBO Hurricane. It is not a fat tire bike, and I got this free from the company in exchange for a review. But I'm going to give you my unfiltered review on this thing. Because it was free, I guess they decided to send me a return. This is a bike that had obviously been returned to them. It has a bunch of tape, a bunch of holes, and then when I take it out, it's not packed like any of the other bikes. There's no zip ties in there. Things are just thrown in and loosely packed. And so I don't know if the bike got kind of banged up during the shipping or if it was banged up by the previous person who used it. But there's a lot of scratches and stuff on the frame, which I'm totally fine with, and the bike works fine. But I was very interested in this bike because this is a bike that is like a bicycle that has motor assist rather than the fat tire bikes I've been looking at before, which are essentially like mopeds with some pedals attached. Those things, don't get me wrong, are extremely fun. Those fat tire bikes are very powerful, lots of fun, but they're not really bicycles. Like, you don't really need to pedal them. You can just crank on the throttle and use it like a moped. This does not have a throttle. It looks like a regular bike. It feels like a regular bike, but just with a little extra boost, and that's what I like about it. So if you see how you look at it right now, it looks like a regular bike, but the down tube is a little thicker. That's where the battery is, and that would kind of tip some people off that it is an e-bike. And also the rear hub looks bigger because that is the hub motor. This is a single speed bicycle. It does not have a derailleur, and that's something I really liked about it because of the simplicity of the single speed. There isn't a need for a derailleur on most e-bikes because the motor will give you assist so that you don't need the lower gears to climb hills. Now, that's what I thought before I got this bike, but after getting this bike and riding it around, I've been riding it probably for the past 3 weeks every day, and I realized that probably if you live in a hilly area, it would be helpful to have some gears. Not for the uphill, actually, but for the downhill. I wish it was geared up a little higher so I could hit higher speeds downhill. Now, this bike is pedal assist only. There is no throttle on it, which I think is a great thing. It forces you to exercise and use it like a bicycle, and it assists you up to 20 miles per hour, which is great. And you can 20 miles per hour is plenty fast, and has a headlight built in, as you can see. I'm checking it out there. One of the things that I decided that I really wanted on this bicycle, if I'm going to use it as a commuter, is I did not want to have to deal with flats. Flats are terrible, and especially on an e-bike, taking the wheel off to replace the inner tube when you're dealing with a flat would be almost impossible on the side of the road. It requires lots of tools. You have to break the chain, and you have to remove the rear wheel, disconnect the electricity, take off the tensioners. It's just a big thing. It would take probably 20 minutes to do. So I installed this thing called Tannus Armor. And basically it's a foam insert that you place in the wheel, and then you put an inner tube, a smaller inner tube on the inside. So I looked at solid core tires, and I looked at looking at tubeless tires with sealant. And tubeless tires with sealant is a good choice, but you have to replace the sealant every so often. This one is like kind of like you put it in once and you forget about it. You never have to deal with it again. It is, I will say, a major pain to install. It took me probably 15 minutes or more to install this. It's very, very difficult. You have to like really lever it. They give you these really, really hefty tire levers, and you're going to need them. But once you install it, the thing is pretty much bulletproof. And I've run over now about 3 or 4 goat heads, and they have not caused me a flat. So far, so good. I'm going to ride this for about 6 or 7 months, and then I'll see how well they do. But I installed this on this bike, and I think it's going to be a good thing. So let's look at the features of this bike. Here is the front wheel. It is a thin tire. It's a 700C by 32 millimeter tire. It looks a little thin to me. It looks more like a 28 millimeter tire. But if you look at the clearances, you can definitely put up to at least a 40 millimeter tire. So you could go bigger on the tire. And there's plenty of clearance in the back as well. You can see that there's a lot of space, and across the bottom side, it's also, so here you go. Here's a single speed freewheel, and here's where the electricity goes in. You see the tensioners on the back. See, you'd have to take that off, disconnect the, take the tensioners off here, and then there's the hub motor, and then you'd have to disconnect the electricity here, and then you have to cut the zip tie right here, and you have to do all that and then take the wheel off to replace the inner tube and then reverse everything. So it would take a while. So a flat on this bike would be a major hassle. A flat on my road bike, I can usually fix that within 5 minutes, no problem. And then this rear wheel is actually surprisingly heavy. I would say that the rear wheel with the motor itself is over 10 pounds. So that is where most of the weight comes in. It has disc brakes. They are cable actuated, not hydraulic, but the cable actuated brakes work fine. It stops very, very well. There's no problem with that. Comes with steel platform pedals with good pegs. So it's a large, stable platform. So I really like the pedals. And they include a bottle cage, and you can see some of the scratches because this is a return bike. But again, does not affect the performance of the bike. I'm very happy with it, and I can't really complain. They gave it to me for free, so I'm not going to complain about some scratches. Here's the charge port, and it has a 36 volt, 10 amp hour battery, which is way, way smaller than the batteries in the fat tire bikes. It's probably 1/3 or 1/4 the size. However, this thing has a range of close to 40 miles because you're forced to pedal. You cannot use, and the bicycle is only about 36 pounds. Now here's how you turn it on, and then you can change the level of pedal assist here. There's only 3 levels of pedal assist, and of course the highest level gives you 20 miles per hour. I asked the company if they can go higher than that, and you can't. There's a little bell there that you can use, and that doesn't come with the bike. That's just the cell phone holder that I put on. There's the brake levers. They automatically cut off, and then there's these nice rubberized handles that are really comfortable actually. And here's the front light. And the light is actually quite bright. It's definitely enough light to ride the bike at 20 miles per hour down roads with. I don't know that it's good enough to like go off-road with, but this is not a bike that you go off-road. This comes with these thinner road bike saddles. They are much more comfortable to me than the wider seats that come on the fat tire bikes. When I go more than about 10 miles on those fatter bikes, it starts hurting. This one does not hurt as much. It is an aluminum frame, so it's very, very stiff, and it does transmit all the vibrations to you, so the ride is harsh. That is a downside. I wish they would have made it out of steel, or at least put in a steel or a carbon fiber fork on it. That would have made it a little bit less harsh, but you are going to feel every bump in the road on this frame. Especially with the thinner tires. Things that you could do probably is if you change it out to 40 millimeter tires, that's not going to add that much more weight. It's going to make the ride a lot better. But again, I don't mind it. I'm used to stiff frame and some vibration, so it's not bad, but it's definitely a little more, it's stiffer than the road bike that I normally use for commuting. But again, I've been using this for commuting for the last several weeks, and I love it. It's great. I can maintain close to 20 miles per hour uphill, which is awesome. And the only thing that I wish that was better was that I could go faster than 20 miles per hour downhill. I just kind of run out of gear with this one gear going downhill, and it's very difficult to pedal faster than 22, 23, 24 miles per hour. For any particular time. So you see here, this is a very, very steep hill, and I'm maintaining about 16 miles per hour. Without assist, I would be going probably about 7, 8 or 9 miles per hour up this hill. And so the amount of power that this bike puts out is 350 watts. That's what the motor is rated at. compare that to the 750 watts and 1000 watt peak that the fat tire bikes have. And this is a lot less power, but because there's way less rolling resistance on these thinner tires and the weight of the bike itself is so much less, it gives you quite a bit of assist. And it helps you, it basically flattens out the hills so that it isn't difficult. And hills are just what make bicycling hard. Bicycling on flat or downhill is not difficult. So, and the other thing is when you run out of battery on the larger, 80-pound, 4-inch tire bicycles, it is extremely hard to pedal that bike up a hill. Like I said, I ran out of batteries on some of those bikes about a mile and a half away, and the last mile and a half, it was harder than the previous 12 miles of riding before. On this bike, if you run out of batteries, it's just a heavy bicycle. You can still pedal it uphill. I mean, it's not going to be easy, but you can still do it, and it's not this Herculean task to do it. So anyway, I'm very happy with this bike overall. It is the bike that I'm now using as my main bicycle. And I really like having the Tannus Armor in there. I just don't worry about goat heads. There's goat heads and little shards of metal in the roads from time to time. And I would get a flat every month or two. And I feel like I've already pulled several goat heads out of these tires now, and they have not caused a flat. So I feel very good that I'm not going to have to deal with a flat anymore. Okay, so overall, if you're looking for a bicycle that acts like a bicycle but just gives you a boost so that you don't have to work as hard going up a hill, but in other ways handles pretty well, it just feels like a slightly heavier bicycle, this is the one you want. If you want something that's really a smooth ride and very powerful and acts kind of like a moped that you can pedal sometimes, then you want one of the fat tire bikes. And they are, I'm not going to lie, a lot of fun. Those fat tire bikes are a lot of fun. But me personally, I just like it. This is just a little more nimble, and the riding position is a little bit more aggressive, which I like. And that is why I prefer this bike over the fat tire bikes. Now I just keep the fat tire bikes as a cargo bike, and they're perfect in that role. So I think as a cargo bike, that's what you want. But as a commuter bike, and especially if you live someplace that's relatively flat and you don't have too many downhills where you want to go faster than 20 miles per hour, this bike is going to work out very well for you. All right, thanks for watching, guys.